400 episodes. Can you believe it? In just over a year, this channel has output 400 episodes, and there are sometimes 2 parts to those episodes now, which is just insane. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. It's been incredible, but we really aren't done yet. If you're new, hit that sub button, join the Awakened family, hit that like button as well. Let's get it to 1,500 likes on this video, just as a little celebration for making it this far, so far. But as I said, we have so much more to cover, so buckle up. Let's get on into it. And that is a wrap on today's part 1. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. We covered some pretty deep, dark rabbit holes, and of course we have part 2 dropping later today where we get to do this all over again with some brand new conspiracies to cover. But for now, stay safe, stay well, and stay curious. Until next time.